Hello, hello, hello. Hi, you guys. How are you doing? Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I am Dr. Jefferson, your host. I hope that you guys are faring well. Hopefully, you're having a positive and a refreshing Friday. Um, this conversation is going to be fairly difficult for me. Um, there are so many levels of wrong here. And I'm a person that doesn't believe in responsibility being the biggest component to accountability. I believe that accountability is its own separate factor. Um, so hmm. I am a psychotherapist, accountability coach, a life educator, family life educator, certified in that capacity. I'm a clinician's wellness and outcomes trainer, facilitator for so many things, right? Marriage and family therapist, sex therapist, you name it, life wellness and relationships guru, all those things. I wear many hats. But above all else, I'm here for accountability on the conversations that affect the Black and the Brown community collectively or individually when it comes to our inclusivity in the world around us. Um, this conversation is one that I feel like is a very sensitive one because you guys know that I am a mother, apparently. And before anything else, I feel like that role not only helps to define my passion and purpose in life, but it also helps me remain tethered. Throughout the course of one's life, we we develop resiliency factors and ambivalence of sorts for the way that we gauge life in light of the distresses that life comes with. Life comes along with positive distresses and negative distresses. However, the way that it impacts our mental, emotional, and behavioral functioning is oftentimes the exact same. People succumb to mental health crises every single day. The suicide rates have more than tripled over the last 2 decades. So, what does that tell us about the distress management techniques and skill sets of people in the world that we live in? It definitely tells us that there is an issue. Parenthood is it's hard. It's definitely hard because like you grow up in life, especially people who grew up as single children. You grow up in life learning how to be the person who is supported and provided for versus learning how to be the person who is the provider, who is the person responsible for cultivating and shaping other lives. And then you're kind of thrown into what that looks like, over the course of 1 year, right? All of that can change. The very interesting thing about this particular case is that I feel like the news media, for the very first time, has tried to do their due diligence and go and have some conversations with the person's family and things like that. And even in that, I don't feel like it's been thorough, right? So today we're gonna have a conversation, a really important conversation about what it means to be a parent. We're gonna have conversations around who's accountable in this situation, and more importantly, we are going to remember this young baby who lost her life due to the direct negligence of a system that failed her because she didn't have a voice. So, as you guys come in, just let me know you're here and say hi. If you guys are watching this channel for the first time, just know that this channel and the content here is strictly around accountability and finding viable options to the things that I discuss as far as accountability. So if you're viewing for the first time, don't forget to subscribe. Go ahead and share the content. And I will say that viewer discretion is advised due to some people having been almost parents, sometimes are triggered by content where people who are given the privilege and the honor of being or becoming a parent negating to protect children in this way. So if you're a person who has lost a child or um, who struggles with stories like this where children are dying, you definitely want to click off the video now, and then maybe come back towards the end. I do intend for this show to be under an hour, but it is very sensitive content. So I'd say check back in around the 40-minute mark or so. Okay. So we're going to jump right into this. This is our topic for today. And I'm going to share some content with you guys. First, I'm going to share this little piece snippet. And I want to know what you guys think. Okay? And then I will definitely read out while we share the content so you guys who are just listening instead of actually watching the stream know what the story is about and those sorts of things. Give me just a sec so I can pull this up. But how is your day going so far? What's going on with you guys? Yeah, let's go to this one first because it'll be two separate things that I'm sharing with you guys. It's going to be the arrest report, but then I'm also going to go and share um, other content around the accountability component where the well they've tried to go and do their due diligence around accountability.
Officers say the 5-year-old was left in a room with closed windows and then wrapped in blankets. This happened at 5. A local mom is accused of killing her own child by leaving her in a hot room. Well, police say the 23-year-old Kamaya Taylor told them it was a, quote, necessary sacrifice. Officers say the 5-year-old was left in a room with closed windows and then wrapped in blankets. This happened at a home right near Silverado Ranch in Maryland Parkway last week. The temperature in that room, according to police, was 101 degrees. Police also found her other daughter, who is 2. She, though, right now is in Child Protective Services. Metro says the mother was acting erratically and asked to be taken to an insane asylum.
Make this the summer you taught them what it means to serve. The summer of hauling happiness by the ton.
So what are you guys' initial reflections before I get to the commentary from the family? What are y'all thinking? Like, what comes to mind when you see something like this? Um, and I mean, it's definitely not the first time that this has happened over the in the United States, and it's something that's more prevalent now, I think, than ever. And we'll talk about why that is. But I would like to know how you guys feel, just being people on the outside. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I've heard come from the mouths of several folks here as of late. Because I did an accountability conversation yesterday, and it was really interesting me that one of the content creators who I've got a lot of flack for not really going after or reviewing her content and stuff like that. Because of some of the things that she claims in her description of herself, and those sorts of things. So I've gotten a lot of flack from that, but there is a thing that Tanya TKO said on her show. I want to say the show that she did individually on Tabitha Brown, and we talked about that. We saw that yesterday's late show. So she said something about, in her response, even though her response was definitely defensive, she said that she was extremely most women who are single are the happiest women around. So give me a second so I can grab this. But yeah, so she said that most single women are some of the happiest people in the world because, like, she's not boggled down by kids. She's not having to worry about a husband and those sorts of things. Right? So I have my question for you guys is, do you think that parenthood is something that is so difficult that leads to murder um now? And I think that we obviously see it, right? It's apparent. We can see it can lead to that. But do you think that it's more of a norm response to the pressures of parenting than other things that we go through in life? So let's read this story, okay? The family members of a 5-year-old Las Vegas girl found dead in a hot house with no air conditioning Monday said the youth's mother had an extensive support system available to her, but she never reached out for help or told anyone close to her that she was struggling financially. Kamaya Taylor, 23, of Las Vegas, was charged with murder and 2 counts of child abuse Thursday in the death of her child during a hearing in Las Vegas justice courts that Taylor refused to attend. Now, I did mention you guys that the child who passed away, who was deceased, when authorities arrived, she was under a cover. She was under a cover. And her 2-year-old sister is standing there right next to her the whole time. And she had been deceased for a while. Let's see if this speaks to some of the other things before I have to kind of tell you guys about some of the background that I've discovered over the course of me doing the research on this particular case. Okay, so Las Vegas police said Taylor's child, whose name has not been released, and her 2-year-old sister were found by police in their mother's sweltering home near East Pyle Avenue and South Maryland Parkway. The 2 children were found locked inside a bedroom, Clark County Prosecutor Stephen Rose said Thursday morning, adding that the temperature in the home had reached 101 degrees. Police said the 5-year-old died in at the scene. Her sister survived. Okay. The high temperatures outdoors on Monday was 106 degrees. Rose confirmed the air conditioner was not on in the residence, but he did not have information as to whether it was turned off or disconnected. It was also not known yet whether the child's death was caused by heat exhaustion or something else. The Clark County Coroner's Office is investigating both the cause and manner of death. Taylor's landlord told Las Vegas Review Journal Wednesday that Taylor, weeks prior to her daughter's death, said she was struggling financially and that she had no one to help her. The landlord said Taylor was living in a messy house and appeared to be disheveled. However, the children's grandmother, Marissa Brown, and aunt, Condra Coleman, both of Sacramento, said Thursday outside of the court that Taylor's claim about not having any family to help her is false. My son wants to make one thing clear. Kamaya had all the help that she needed, Brown said. There is no way in hell that anyone would not have come to her aid. Coleman and Brown said Taylor has numerous family members in Las Vegas and Sacramento. The children's father, who attended the hearing, has been deeply involved in the kids' lives, they say. Outside of the court, family members said Taylor in recent weeks stopped communicating with the children's father, aunt, or grandmother when they called to check on the kids. She hasn't responded to their father, Coleman said. She wouldn't text and say, it's Father's Day. I want to hear from my kids. I should be able to. They are my children. Taylor texts back, of course, Coleman said, then never heard anything from the babies. She blocked my son, Brown added. She kept all communication away. She played the role with me as well. I have tons of message of her letting her know that we are there for her and will do anything for my grandkids. Coleman and Brown said that they had imminent plans to come to Las Vegas to find out what was going on with the kids and Taylor. A trip was planned for July 9th. Wonder how he's feeling about that trip now. And as I'm reading this, I just want to know you guys' thoughts around the way that fathers in America respond and interact with their children's mothers and how much that has to do with their perception of the judicial system and process and those things, okay? So she never said there was a problem, Coleman said. If her rent needed to be paid, we would have paid it. If we had to come together and just take up collections from everyone in the family, those babies would have had a roof over their heads regardless. There's no reason that this should have happened. Coleman broke down in tears as she talks, prompting Brown to hug and console her. Me and my son helped pay our rent last month, Brown said. Taylor's landlord said neighbors observed Taylor acting bizarrely in front of her home prior to the discovery of the children. At one point, Taylor made a comment about being the son of Jacob. Coleman, Brown, and their loved ones spent a sleepless night driving to Las Vegas for Thursday's hearing in front of Las Vegas Justice of the Peace Karen Bennett Herron. Public defender has been appointed to represent Taylor. The next court date in the case is scheduled for July 15th. How many of you are going to follow up with that? Coleman and Brown said the death of a child is unfathomable. Everyone on both sides of the family are grief stricken and in shock. The families described the 5-year-old as so precious. They declined to release her name until authorities do so. She was an angel, Coleman said. She never did anything to anyone. She had a bright future, Brown said. So, this was written by Glenn Pruitt, you guys, at the Review Journal in Las Vegas. Well written. So, how are you guys feeling? I want to say that when you check this video out, I want you guys to take in consideration the difficulty that it takes to sit with these types of conversations within our community. because these conversations are not lighthearted at all. They're very difficult, and these situations are not lighthearted at all. They're difficult in and of themselves. We have an abundance of children losing their lives at the hands of irresponsible parents or neglectful parents every single day. And I think that within the Black and the Brown community, we don't see that as a crisis because we see so many kids in foster care. We've had so many negative interactions with child protective services and the school system around reporting and inaccurate reporting and things like that. I feel like there are so many things we can speak to when we talk about accountability in this particular situation. It's very disheartening that a child at this age had to lose her life. And talk about attachment trauma. You got a 2-year old who's now been ripped emotionally from her mother because of mental health issues, and then now she's going to be ripped away from her mother permanently physically because of the same said mental health issues. When you sit with a story like this, oftentimes the question comes up of what about the father? Where was he? What was he doing? What was his role? I believe the urban official urban therapist or money boy trait, one of them shared a video one time, and this is what I spoke to being the outcome of the behaviors of young Black women who decide that they want to play the game of blocking the father of the child. Because I think that there is an overarching idea or concept in the minds of people that when you have children, because you're a father, and the law says that the primary parent naturally is the mother if you're not married, right? I think the primary position is that okay, well, I don't have any rights. At any when a woman is the primary custodian of your child and she blocks you, regardless of what state that you are in the United States, that is still called parental alienation and it is still illegal. It's illegal. This video that they showed on their pages was of a father showing up at the house where his children reside, his kid reside, and with the mom, and the mom had a boyfriend, the boyfriend had a gun or whatever. And I think it was like maybe 6:30 in the morning, 5:30, 6:30 in the morning, something like that. And the questions were raised, the argument was made that hey, he just showed up out of the blue. Children die every day at the hands of these same young Black women because of either an inadequacy in the level of maturation needed for them to parent their children properly, or they want to live their best life and they don't want to be stuck and barred down with children and things like that. When Tanya TKO made that statement, oh well, in reflection to somebody asking her does she have a man, I thought to myself like, if this was the way that various women who ended up continuing to conceive when they know good and well they're not ready to take on that responsibility, maybe we wouldn't have so many Black and brown children dying at the hands of or care of under the care of or inadequate care of their mothers. Nobody ever thought about that? Because these are my thoughts when I see things like this. I'm like wondering how prepared these people are to become someone's mother. The system in America, the way the governmental system is designed, it's, I think, deconditioning responsibility in young people or American people, period. So if you have a government system where you can go and you can receive financial assistance and food assistance and housing assistance and child care assistance, all these assistance programs, right? After making choices that land you in situations where you're deeper in poverty as a result of giving birth to children, I know it may sound very harsh, But the reality is that is a cop out, and it's also enabling these types of behaviors. I think that's what perpetuates the cycle of these children dying like this. If I am a citizen of a country where I know that there is no help available for me, if I find myself in a situation to where I've now become a parent and I wasn't ready to become a parent, I wasn't set financially to become a parent, I wasn't set mentally or emotionally to become a parent, and all of these things, there is something about the responsibility component that's definitely going to make me shy away because I'm not interested in doing things that's going to prevent me from living my best life, right? I think that we have to be honest and say, yes, I'm sure it hurts for the grandmother of this child. And I don't want it to seem like I'm insensitive because trust me, it was even difficult for me to move forward and do this story. But when we are grandparents of little people, it's our responsibility to prepare those people who are their parents for the job and the role of a parent. And when we fail to do that and these kids die as a result of that, we have to take accountability for what we did or did not do when we had the opportunity. Just because somebody blocks you on their phone doesn't mean you can't go right on over there. I don't care if you got to drive from California or not. You have to ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could be happening right now? It wasn't mentioned in this particular article, though very well written, and even though he did his due diligence on the side of holding the family of the father accountable or whatever and bringing them in, and her mother, it wasn't written, but she had a friend that she reached out to over the course of this time, and she sent a very disturbing note to that particular friend. So my question is, why is it that that friend didn't call a crisis support team, crisis line, or somebody to help this young lady? That's the first level of accountability for me. At the point where she blocked dad, grandmother, and all of these people, why didn't anybody intervene? Let me do. This is the crisis number. When you guys see that a person is in a crisis, a mental health crisis, or other crisis, even if you're confused and you can't even figure it out, you don't know what the situation is, you don't even know how to respond to it. I want you guys to simply dial this number. It's 800-715-8255. You could also do 800-273-8255. If you don't have anything to write with, just remember 715 talk. And it doesn't matter where you are, literally in the world, actually. They can connect you with the right linkage and resources in your area to make sure that the people that you are concerned about have the adequate help they need to move them in a position to where they are now stable. That way, we don't end up in situations like this where children die or even those people die, because suicide is a real thing. As a means to trying to deal with, cope with the high level of distress of the transitions in life that we're not prepared for, oftentimes people take their lives. COVID-19 has been a serious life zapper for many people. Although we can look around and we sometimes see people who have thrived during this time and they've really like built themselves up, opened up new businesses, become more, profitable in the business that they were in, and all of these things, people are still dealing with a heavy level of distress and can't figure out how they're going to manage or gauge the day to day or move forward tomorrow or the next day, because that's distress is distress. You are having to reshuffle things, and having to work from home isn't always so easy, especially if you're a parent with small kids, because like you can't just control everything that they do, right? You still have to be able to afford childcare. Childcare is sometimes out of the reach of affordability. We look at how much housing costs nowadays and inflation, and we look at the wages and do a comparison of that component, and it's just not, it's not right. None of it is fair. But more importantly, it's not fair for these children. I think that our system, if the system is going to be one that is built up to really support the lives of families and in transition from a very difficult place to the next stage of life, it needs to be more responsive for one. They need to be, it needs to be more realistic for two. So you don't need to just support a person who's saying they're having difficulties financially and you see them at the cusp, right, of being financially independent enough to provide for themselves within a month, and then you cut them off from resources. I think that there should be some programs in place, more programs in place that help parents with gaining adequate parenting skills. Parenting is about understanding how to manage distress, self emotional regulation, but also helping your child become the best version they can be and expressively um, connecting with your child in a way that's conducive to your child's growth and maturation in a positive way. What this tells me is that these children were disconnected on so many levels. Nobody said that the police were called out to the house because the kids were crying and they could hear them from a mile away. Kids who are accustomed to responsive parents, if locked up in a hot room, everybody's going to know it. Everybody's going to know it. I don't really understand how we've allowed this to happen. But I have a feeling that this child who was 5 years old with no developmental delay at all was already deceased for a period of time before help arrived, for days maybe. First responders said that they noticed that the child was unresponsive, and they began conducting CPR. But the reality is this: a 5-year-old knows how to open the door. The door wasn't locked. A support system, let's explore the support system. A support system is what was mentioned in this article, and support systems are what we internally recognize as systems that are supportive of us, people that we can go to and we feel comfortable with, sharing our issues with them. So oftentimes people will think that we trust them, and we don't. We deal with you because, we have to. All your friends aren't your friends. Sometimes they're really just acquaintances. And you have some people who walk through life who never really truly have friends, because people are so self-absorbed that it makes it very difficult for anybody to authentically connect these days. So if we talk about the accountability component, if they were really supportive of her, they would have been there. These children would not have been almost dead. The 5-year-old wouldn't have been dead. And I hate to hold the father accountable in a situation like this, given all the circumstances, because I know it's hard. I know it is. But I believe that it would have been better if he had called the police on his baby's mama instead of her friend having to call the police and ask for a welfare check. Like, I want for more Black men to start stepping up and fighting for their rights. You have a right to that child just like the woman does. And your child's safety looks like it now depends on you. That's just the reality. It's a harsh truth that we have to step into accepting as women especially. But men are starting to become primary parents of their children in an abundance now. Because apparently the job of the woman is, and the role of a woman is so misconstrued. And women simply refuse to step into that place because I don't know, maybe it's due to the stigma associated with it and what that means, or maybe life has been hard for them. I don't know. But what I know is we have got to do something about the insurmountable amount of young people, babies that are passing away, that are dying. And we talk about hot car deaths, but I don't even want to begin to imagine what it was like for a 5-year-old to die under a cover in the house with the mom downstairs going through a mental health crisis. I so the school systems will typically step in and be able to be a viable means of reporting, engaging, and managing the welfare and safety of young children normally. But when kids are out of school, they can't do that. So we can't say the school system was responsible. Now, we could definitely say the Department of Family and Children Services were could be responsible if a report was made by the father. So the thing is, parental alienation is a crime, but it's also grounds to suspect some type of abuse is happening in the household. So for men out there wondering how you guys can have a more active role in situations where you feel like the other parent caregiver, who is the female, is keeping you from your child, and you feel like your kid could possibly be at risk for some type of abuse, right? You could definitely call your local or their local Department of Family and Children Services and file a complaint, because it has to be in the county and territory where the child lives. File a complaint against that parent, so that they can investigate, because the realities are this, and I don't want to make it come off like it's a CYA situation, cover your ass, but the reality is this. It's situations where you now have to show up to court and you have to attest to how supportive of your kids are you? How involved are you as a father? Like, who are you? When you have to show up for things like that, it makes it more difficult if you can't speak to having advocated on your child's behalf. Children who are this age, they don't have a voice. You have a 2-year-old child who is now severely traumatized, not for just right now, but for the rest of this child's life. That's the reality. And, it's sad. It really is. So, I kind of feel like mothers who recognize that they are not fit to be mothers, women who recognize that they're not fit to be in relationships, women who recognize that they're not fit to step in particular roles, and as a result they don't do it. I kind of feel like, they're probably the most mature people that we can have conversations about right now. It's very disheartening to see this type of situation. It's very disheartening to see it in our culture, period. So there has been a lot of rumor around the possibility of women feeling like they are so strong that they can do everything on their own, and as a result, it leads to the death of our children, because we become so distressed that that we don't know how to adequately gauge when we need to reach out for help. I don't know if that was the fact with this mother. I mean, she was 23 years old. So, and the fact that, somebody said they paid her rent last month tells me that she felt like she, definitely could reach out. But I don't know if she felt comfortable enough to just give her kids to the father, which I feel like maybe that should have been the best outcome. Could have been the best outcome. I don't know how the grandmother is feeling right now, but I know for a fact that based on her response that she's obviously feeling some level of a responsibility to at least this 2-year-old child, because somebody's got to do the person to be, do the job of stepping in and making sure things are okay. But this is a time where people are in deep financial distress. Even people who typically live very comfortably are in very deep financial distress. So if you find that you are a parent and you're struggling with remaining vigilant and you're struggling with continuing your course as a parent, as a mother for your children, let me help you, help us, help your children. Contact the father, contact the father's mother, contact your friend, contact the crisis line, contact somebody and let them know that life has become too much for me. In the United States, there is a safe haven law. Okay. And the safe haven law has been put in place for a reason. You do not have to continue to parent your children if you do not want to. If you feel like it has become too difficult for you and you can't do the basic things that your child is needing you to do to keep their life going, you could drop your kids off at the police station, at the fire station, at a local hospital. Like, drop them off and no questions asked. Just drop them off and go. You could have done that. The fact that they are saying that, this young lady was suffering from mental health issues, and that's a parent. She thought that she was the son of somebody. Tells me that mental health issues are definitely at bay here. So let's talk about that. Mental health disorders are definitely real. People can become overly distressed, and as a result, they dissociate from the events that are taking place in their lives. They're just not there for those events. They go to a place where they can be safer, they can feel more secure and seated in protection, right? So that happens. However, we can't notice that if the people around them aren't noticing incongruences in their presentation and the way they're dealing with them. So, what I would like to do is help the people who are out here prepare yourselves to be able to recognize symptoms of distress. When a person is no longer responding in the way that they typically do to you, a person is no longer interested doing the things that they normally like to do with you or with self, right? And you are directly in observation of that. When a person is now more argumentative than they used to be, less argumentative than they used to be, passive, withdrawn, refusing to engage in communication or other interactions that are a part of their base level behavior. A person refuses to take care of their basic needs, hygiene, things like that. When a person is dressing inappropriately for the season, temperature outside. For example, they might have on a sweater outside and some sweats, shorts on top of them, t-shirt on top of the sweatshirt with flip-flops on, and it's 110 degrees outdoors. That's what disheveled means. Okay. That's what it means. It means a person is not aware to time, place, and things like that. So they're not 100% oriented to what's going on. And so oftentimes when you find that a person is going through a mental health crisis or a psychotic break, they just aren't in alignment with their regular energy or senses to do what they normally do. And so in these cases, I want you guys to advocate for them. I want you to ask the difficult questions like, are you okay? And be ready to receive whatever they have. So I think that we have to learn how to be connective coaches and partners for people around us. And that's how you do that. Just hold space. That's it. Hold space. And in that space that you're holding, know that you're listening for warning signs in their narrative that may indicate that there is something seriously going on there that needs the help or the attention of a higher level of care. So maybe a professional. And so if you see that that's congruent with that, I want you guys to call that suicide and crisis hotline number so that you can get them the help that they need. As a third party caller, they'll collect some basic information from you and they'll make sure that that person gets the help. A mental health provider will come out and ask, engage, with that person and ask the difficult questions and do a complete assessment and find out whether or not if that person needs immediate help and to be emergency medical services to be called so they can take them to the hospital, transport, or if something else needs to be done, an urgent outpatient appointment scheduled that is conducive of them getting the help that they need. More importantly, though, I want you guys to understand that it's really important for us to be a more viable support system for the people around us. So if you think that you are a support system for someone, okay, I want you to start asking the difficult questions because not everybody sees us as a support, though we may think we're supportive of them. Just because you bought somebody a sandwich or just because you sat down and listened to them while they vented about their very difficult relationship that was on the rocks with their husband doesn't mean that, you are a support for them. Okay? Parenting is hard enough without having to try and make friends with people at work or in the community. But I want you guys to understand that it takes a village to raise a child. More importantly, it takes a village to recognize the incongruences in parents who truly are struggling in that role and trying to find themselves consistently and still making, not making it quite through that and failing at trying to find themselves. So please, please, please do your part. If you see something, say something. If you see someone in need, help them because they are in need. And not everybody knows where to go for the right resources. Don't forget to share this video because at the end of the day, even if it didn't resonate with you, trust me, somebody out there needs it. We cannot always see the pain that's internal of a person. It's easy for us to see cuts and scars and bruises, but it's not easy for us to see the emotional bruises that people go through when they are suffering on the inside from the distresses that occur in their lives, either perceived or actual. And so we need to do a better job at gauging and engaging the world around us, and just take accountability for one another. Okay. So that's pretty much all I've got, you guys. This has been a really, really difficult topic for me to discuss. Mental health matters. Health means that you are congruent in your self checks, means that you are concerned about keeping yourself balanced. It doesn't mean that you're going to the hospital because you are sick, emotionally, behaviorally, or mentally. It means that you're making sure you're okay, even when things don't look like they're not okay. We have to think about our mental health in the same way we think about our physical health in a preventive manner. Think about it like this: wellness checkups are needed for people who have previously experienced any type of mental health disorder in their past, or people that are predisposed to mental health distresses, like people who have witnessed suicides, witnessed suicide attempts, significant distress in the last 6 months, and things like that. These mental health checks are needed every 6 months, at least once every 6 months. When you find yourself not exposed to any risk factors like I just named, or depressive episodes or anxious episodes and things like that, then I would say it's okay for you to be seeing someone and checking on your mental health every year, once a year. But please, please, please make sure that at least the first year you're going twice, so you can just make sure that everything is everything. Okay. Take care of yourself. Okay. Take care of yourself. Take care of one another. Be good to one another. Be conscious of the risk associated with just life out here. It's hard. It's hard. Be sensitive to the fact that people are still people. We're very emotional people and extremely sensitive. You don't know what it takes for a person to break. But you also don't know how important your role in keeping them healthy and strong can be. If you're just sharing content, if you're just sharing your time, creating space for them to just lay it out on the table, right? So the question of this particular topic came about: do children mitigate happiness? And this article was submitted as a result of that question being something that that person felt like this resonated with. I don't know. I don't have a producer today, you guys. So to answer that question, children do not mitigate happiness. Distress associated with becoming parents is definitely distress that's normal, over the course of people's lifespans, especially if they're not prepared. And I talked to that, fact in the very beginning of this video. If you're not happy as a parent, though, if you feel like you have no options because the other parent is absent, you don't know where they are, they're deceased, unknown, whatever, utilize the resources that I've named in this video. Just because you want to provide the best possibility of emotional, physical, and mental wellness for the life potential of that child, just do your part. You know what I'm saying? Like, take yourself out of it. Don't make it about you, or make it about you, right? Make it about you wanting to live your best life and not be tied down to the intricacies of being a parent and responsible for someone. Do the right thing. Utilize safe haven laws in your area. Drop your kid off appropriately. Relinquish all responsibility, okay? And just keep going your own way. Because at the end of the day, we shouldn't make these children pay for the missteps of our lives, the incongruences in our lives, and the ill preparedness in our lives. So as I said, live well, be well, and take care of one another. Tether yourself to somebody in a positive way, like, do something positive for another person that you've never met. Like, if anything, this should resonate with everybody, and it should make you more aware. Look around you, see something, and say something intentionally, just to show that you're woke now, right? It's a lot, you guys. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Bye.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I'll rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.